Not the new Big Shuriken just yet. This one is only 39 millimeters tall, the Shuriken 3. Welcome to Machines More. Today we're going to take a quick look at a new cooler. This is Scythe's Shuriken 3, not to be confused with the end-of-life Big Shuriken 3. This one measures in at only 39 millimeters, so it's ideal for SFF cases where you are seriously height limited, or adjustable spine SFF cases such as this Fractal Terra, where you are configuring for the maximum GPU thickness. Of course, noting that even the smallest Terra CPU config still gives you 48 millimeters. So unless you are truly compelled to this level of clearance, there are absolutely better choices just on that merit. Let's do some quick highlights and then I'll show you how this one performs. Big thanks to Scythe for providing our test cooler today. I'm not paid by Scythe. This content is not sponsored by them, and you can expect independent and objective feedback today. So Scythe had a cooler called the Shuriken Tube that was actually a 58 millimeter tall unit. This is much lower at 39 millimeters, including the fan. It features a custom Flex 92 millimeter by 15 millimeter thick fan. One thing that's neat about this one is that there are cutouts on the frames, and they're saying that those cutouts reduce interference and turbulence from airflow rebound. That's going to be more of an acoustic improvement. Fan does come pre-mounted out of the box, and the hardware, it's actually quite simple because this one is so low. It doesn't mount up like your bigger air coolers. You just install the Intel or AMD brackets near the cold plate, and then you will screw into those brackets from behind the motherboard. So you will want to pay close attention to the manual, since not all installs use a spacer on the screw. And for AM4, you're going to need to remove the stock backplate. For AM5, you actually keep the stock backplate, and then you just screw through that stock backplate. So you do pay attention there. You do get a little bit more rigidity that way with the AM5 install. The footprint of this cooler is tiny. You won't need to worry about your RAM clearance because it absolutely does not get in the way of that. On some boards, I can see how a slightly taller VRM heatsink near the rear I/O heatsink could cause interference. On my test board, which is the MSIB 650i, it is very, very close, but the cooler does clear it completely, and most boards are around this height, so I think most boards, 𝘭𝘪𝑖TX boards, will be okay with this cooler. For my test build, I went with the 7800X 3D, which is less power hungry than the 9800X 3D. The 7800X 3D in this type of scenario will typically top out at 74 to 75 watts, which is already a little bit much for this cooler. The 9800X 3D being 130 plus watts of package power is going to be way too much CPU for this cooler. Here in our testing, the 7800X 3D already does hit the throttle temp of 89 degrees. The CPU fan is full speed, roughly 2500 RPM, and the CPU is dropping power down to about 69 watts, about 118 megahertz lower than the bigger full copper Thermalright AXP90 at 47 millimeter cooler. It's not exactly a fair comparison because that one is about 8 millimeters taller, but this is actually a fairly popular cooler for the Terra for your more height constrained configuration, so I wanted to use that as a frame of reference. If you do have the opportunity to go slightly bigger, I don't see why not, because for reference, Big Brother Big Shuriken 3 and IS-55 are way better, so no shortcuts here. Shuriken 3 does work, but without some serious curve optimized undervolting, you're not going to get the full boost out of the 7800X3 in this scenario. Let's just do a quick sound sample for what it sounds like at the max RPM, which you actually are going to hear quite frequently with a cooler this small. If you anticipate this type of CPU use, then I'd strongly recommend limiting your build to a CPU with a long duration draw closer to 65 watts. So typically your 9K Intel SKUs target that level approximately. But even the non-X AMD Ryzen chips will typically want to push above 80 watts, so you will still find this cooler limiting for that purpose. So in general, a cooler this small is going to severely limit your CPU choice. For gaming, the 7800X 3D is very efficient. For example, in a GPU-limited gaming scenario like I'm testing here with the 6800 XT, 37 watts was the draw here for 1440p gaming. That's not really that much power, not a big deal, and this cooler can absolutely handle that. That chip is still going to run hotter here than with the AXP90, but the difference is a lot smaller, and since it can definitely handle that reduced load, albeit at a fan speed of 1950 RPM, your gaming performance will actually be quite similar, and what you do gain from going with a bigger cooler is going to be some noise benefits there. So that's that. There's not much to it. It's a simple cooler, retails for $40 US. Again, if you have more room, I don't necessarily see the point. The copper Thermalright, like I tested against, is only a few dollars more at $47. But if you are constrained, then yeah, definitely a worthy choice. Pair it with the right CPU and rock on. Hope you found this helpful. Please give a like. Make sure you're subscribed for more SFF goodness. Links down below, and big thanks for watching today.